Lassie Farm, episode 12, the final episode of Ted Chiang's novel, Understand. I project the equivalent of a smile. Reynolds smiles back. Have you ever considered? Suddenly he projects only silence. He's about to speak, but I can't predict what. Then it comes as a whisper. Self-destruct commands, Greco. As he says it, a lacuna in my reconstruction of him fills and overflows, the implications coloring all that I know about him. He means the word. The sentence that, when uttered, would destroy the mind of the listener. Reynolds is claiming that the myth is true, that every mind has such a trigger built in, that for every person there's a sentence that can reduce him to an idiot, a lunatic, a catatonic, and he is claiming he knows the one for me. I immediately tune out all sensory input, directing it to an insulated buffer of short-term memory. Then I conceive of a simulator of my own consciousness to receive the input and absorb it at a reduced speed. As a metaprogrammer, I will monitor the equations of the simulation indirectly. Only after the sensory information has been received as safe will I actually receive it. If the simulator is destroyed, my consciousness should be isolated, and I'll retrace the individual steps leading to the crash and derive guidelines for reprogramming my psyche. I get everything in place by the time Reynolds has finished saying my name. His next sentence could be the destruct command. I'm now receiving my sensory input with a 120 millisecond time lag. I re-examine my analysis of the human mind, explicitly searching for evidence to verify his assertion. Meanwhile, I give my response lightly, casually. Hit me with your best shot. Don't worry, it's not on the tip of my tongue, he says. My search produces something. I curse myself. There's a very subtle backdoor to a psyche's design which I lacked the necessary mindset to notice. Whereas my weapon was one born of introspection, his is something only a manipulator could originate. Reynolds knows that I've built my defenses. Is his trigger command designed to circumvent them? I continue deriving the nature of a trigger command's actions. What are you waiting for? He's confident that additional time won't allow me to construct a defense. Try to guess, he says. So smug. Can he actually toy with me so easily? I arrive at a theoretical description of a trigger's effect on normals. A single command can reduce any subcritical mind to a tabula rasa, but an undetermined degree of customization is needed for enhanced minds. The erasure has distinctive symptoms, which my simulator can alert me to, but those are symptoms of a process calculable by me. By definition, the destruct command is the specific equation beyond my ability to imagine. Would my metaprogrammer collapse while diagnosing the simulator's condition? Have you used the destruct command on normals? I say, I begin calculating what's needed to generate a customized destruct command. Once as an experiment on a drug dealer, says Reynolds. Afterwards, I concealed the evidence with a blow to the temple. It becomes obvious that the generation is a colossal task. Generating a trigger requires intimate knowledge of my mind. I extrapolate what he could have learned about me. It appears to be insufficient, given my reprogramming, but he may have techniques of observation unknown to me. I'm acutely aware of the advantage he's gained by studying the outside world. You will have to do this many times. His regret is evident. His plan can't be implemented without more deaths, those of normal humans, by strategic necessity, and those of a few enhanced assistants of his whose temptation by greater heights would interfere. After using the command, Reynolds may reprogram them, or me, as savants having focused intentions and restricted self-meta-programmers. Such deaths are a necessary cost of his plan. I make no claims of being a saint, he says, merely a savior. Normals might think him a tyrant because they mistake him for one of them, and they've never trusted their own judgment. They can't fathom that Reynolds is equal to the task. His judgment is optimal in questions of their affairs, and their notions of greed and ambition do not apply to an enhanced mind. In a histrionic gesture, Reynolds raises his hand, forefinger extended, as if to make a point. I don't have sufficient information to generate his destruct command, so for the moment I can only attend to defense. If I can survive his attack, I may have time to launch another one of my own. With his finger upraised, he says, "Understand." At first I don't, and then, horrifyingly, I do. He didn't design the command to be spoken. It's not a sensory trigger at all. It's a memory trigger. The command is made out of a string of perceptions, individually harmless, that he planted in my brain like time bombs. The mental structures that were formed as a result of those memories are now resolving into a pattern, forming a gestalt that defines my dissolution. I'm intuiting the word myself. Immediately my mind is working faster than ever before. Against my will, a lethal realization is suggesting itself to me. I'm trying to halt the associations, but these memories can't be suppressed. The process occurs inexorably as a consequence of my awareness, and like a man falling from a height, I'm forced to watch. Milliseconds pass. My death passes before my eyes. An image of the grocery store when Reynolds passed by. The psychedelic shirt the boy was wearing. Reynolds had reprogrammed the display to implant a suggestion within me, ensuring that my randomly reprogrammed psyche remained receptive, even then. No time! All I can do is meta-program myself over randomly at a furious pace, an act of desperation, possibly crippling. The strange modulated sounds that I heard when I first entered Reynolds' apartment. I absorbed the fatal insights before I had any defenses raised. I tear apart my psyche, but still the conclusion goes clearer, sharper. Myself constructing the simulator, designing those defensive structures gave me the perspective needed to recognize the gestalt. I concede his greater ingenuity. It bodes well for his endeavor. Pragmatism avails a savior far more than aestheticism. I wonder what he intends to do after he's saved the world. I comprehend the word and the means by which it operates, and so I dissolve.